How it is, bro? It's the Bareback Barbarians podcast up in this piece doing what we do. It's the Bareback Barbarians podcast up in this piece doing what we do.
What's going on, folks? It's Mo G Nick, baby! And we're doing another episode of the Daily Shakedown on the Bareback Barbarians podcast. Now, we're going to go a little bit political. We're going to go a little bit out of the spectrum. No sports today. I'll do a video on Liverpool versus Chelsea. That's happening on Sunday. Probably later on today I might drop 2 videos. But we're going to go political today. We're going to talk about cancel culture. Now, this is a new phenomenon that's crept up into the lexicon of American culture recently. And it's basically some crazy shit, alright? This cancel culture stuff, I don't get it. I'm going to go through basically the Urban Dictionary's definition of cancel culture, and I'm going to go through a very, very articulate and amazing article from the Washington Post. Shout out DC, baby. About cancel culture. And I'm just going to give you my viewpoints on it, and I'm going to give you, step-by-step viewpoints on the article. Mainly a lot of this came about, people are aware of cancel culture now because, Dave Chappelle just recently came out with a great, claps, amazing Netflix comedy special that broke all boundaries. It probably made SJW's head spin like in The Exorcist. Alright, I could just see SJW head spinning. But I got a theory that, the reason they let Dave Chappelle go and didn't try to cancel him, as the definition of cancel culture is because Dave gets a pass. Because Dave came out with similar content back in 2001. His Netflix, comedy special in 2001 called Killing Me Softly pushed extreme boundaries in comedy, just like this one did. But back in 2001, we weren't freaking snowflakes like we are now. We weren't trying to ruin people's careers over a comedy special. You know what I mean? Now, people's lives and livelihoods are being destroyed because of saying the wrong thing that might, anger one group of people, saying another thing that pisses off this group of people, whether it's the LGBT community, whether it's the vegan community, whether it's the freaking gluten-free community, whether it's the God knows what community, alright? Cancel culture has crept into American culture, and basically, they're out for people's heads. So, that Netflix special by Dave that just came out really touched some hot button issues like abortion, racism, women's rights, men's rights, just a whole smorgasbord of shit. And I'm going to go through and break down what I feel, how cancel culture is ruining society today, and what I think about it. Let's go to the definition. Alright, the definition of cancel culture. Alright, I'm going to put this up on the screen for you guys to read. The Urban Dictionary definition for cancel culture: a modern internet phenomenon where a person is ejected from influence. Okay, that's a big term right there. Ejected from influence or fame by questionable actions. It is caused by a critical mass of people who are quick to judge and slow to question. Okay, very key right there. That are quick to judge and slow to question. It is commonly caused by an accusation, whether that accusation has merit or not. Okay, it is a direct result of the ignorance of people caused by people with communication technologies outpacing the growth in available knowledge of a person, i.e. social media. Word travels quicker through social media, allowing for this cancel culture to spread like a virus. Alright? And when a mob of people, a mass amount of people start trying to cancel somebody, you couldn't do that 10, 15 years ago. You couldn't do that 20 years ago because everything traveled through traditional media, i.e. radio, television, etc. But now you've got blogs, you've got Twitter, you've got Instagram, you've got everything for a mass amount of people to swarm one person and try to shut them down. This is horrible. This stifles creativity, stifles imagination, stifles freedom of speech, basically shutting down people from expressing their one true ideas or what they want to say because they don't want to affect or harm another group of peoples. All right? So this is like, like before the Renaissance in the Middle Ages, you had referendums all over Europe trying to stifle technology and, like Copernicus. Copernicus said that the world, was round and or it the earth circled the sun, whereas before that time, religious peoples, the people that were in power, the Pope, etc., said that the sun circles the earth, which was completely wrong. We circled the sun. Copernicus figured it out during astronomy. And same with Galileo. These guys were told to keep quiet. Your scientific facts don't matter. I kind of compare it to that because cancel culture stifles people's ideas. It stifles creativity. And I feel like it reminds me of that time in Europe when you couldn't go against religious things. Science was frowned upon over religious ideas. I feel like cancel culture is in that type of mold, oppressing people. Okay? Next definition. Cancel culture is when a large mob of people come together to relentlessly attack a certain person over an accusation of some kind, which later on usually proven false. Generally, the accusation starts on Twitter. The original person gets questioned, then deleted, but the mob has already started attacking. Okay, I don't get that. Let me read that again. Generally, the accusation starts on Twitter. Yes, starts on social media. The original gets questioned, then deleted, but the mob has already started attacking that person on social media, and then it boosts more mob mentality to question what that person said, and then that person gets attacked left and right, and they try to cancel that person. Basically, shut them down, shut down their ideas, shut down what they're talking about. Basically, try to get them blackballed from whatever industry that they work in, and get them out of the limelight because these mob mentality disagree with them, and that's what cancel culture is. Basically, SJWs going after Dave Chappelle's Netflix special because they didn't agree with the things he was talking about. But what they fail to realize is he has freedom of speech to talk about whatever he wants. And come on, it's a comedy special. People were literally trying to shut down Chappelle. People loved Chappelle's show. They loved Killing Me Softly. But this is almost 20 years ago. This is 15 years ago. You move forward now in 2019, and all that stuff can get you blackballed in whatever industry that you're working for. And this is cancel culture. So, let me read this Washington Post article. If you just Google cancel culture, Washington Post, this article will come right up. The headline is A Step-by-Step Guide to Why People Can't Stop Arguing About Cancel Culture. Written by Abby Oholheiser and Eli Izzadi. This article just came out 2 days ago. It's a really great article. Let me read it. Shane Gillis's historical brief tenure on Saturday Night Live has turned into a referendum on an amorphous idea, cancel culture. Shortly after Gillis was announced as a new featured player on SNL's late last week, clips of the comedian using racist language about Asians on a podcast recorded last year began circulating online, along with calls for him to lose his job. He tried to explain himself as a performer who pushes boundaries. Okay? On Monday, SNL decided to part ways with him. Look at that right there. All right? This guy got hired on the show, probably his big break. He'd been probably a small-time comedian forever. Finally gets his big break, and somebody decides to dig up through his past history and past data, because everybody's data is online. So what these SJWs and or mobs do is, as soon as they see somebody getting limelight, they'll go through your background, look through all your internet data, and see if you've ever done anything wrong so that they can cancel you. Alright? They got this guy fired for saying something on a podcast a year ago. What these people do is, anything you've done in the past, they use it against you to cancel and shut you down. And this, my peoples, is how you stifle creativity, stifle ideas, stifle innovation. It's exactly what I believe was going on in Europe during the Middle Ages. Before the Renaissance came. Because what happened when the Renaissance came and the shackles were let go by the religious institutes? You had Leonardo da Vinci, you had Michelangelo, you had Raphael, you had people, you had Sistine Chapel, you had all the great innovation by Leonardo da Vinci. It was called a European Renaissance for a reason. The shackles were let go. The shackles that Copernicus and Galileo were hindered by weren't hindered by Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and all the other people that came through Italy's Renaissance, Europe's Renaissance. If you have the power, these mobs, to get somebody fired because you don't agree with them, or can use past mistakes against them, then anybody else that sees this will immediately try to delete anything they've ever done in the past, try to get that washed off the internet. Basically, you're forcing people now to completely act innormal to how they would normally act. Let me keep going. This is just cancel. The SNL decided to part ways with him because of the backlash. This is just cancel culture. The guy shouldn't have been fired, comedian Jim Jeffries said on Monday on David Spade's talk show. And these are comedians that pushed boundaries in the 90s. They weren't hindered by the shackles that comedians are hit with now. And the reason I believe Dave Chappelle got away with his Netflix special and it wasn't as overblown as it could have been, because the mob tried. They tried. But they couldn't get the ball rolling on it because too many people love Dave Chappelle. Too many people remember how good Chappelle's show was and how he pushed the boundaries. Remember the blind black guy who thought he was a KKK member? One of the greatest, brilliant scripts on Dave Chappelle. So many things Dave Chappelle pushed the boundaries with, but that one is like the main one. That blind black guy who grew up thinking he was a white racist. Alright? That pushed so many boundaries on racism. And people remember that. And that's why Dave Chappelle didn't get hit over the head as hard with cancel culture as he could. Because there's too many people that are my age, that maybe a little bit younger than in their mid-30s, that remember that show and how big that show was in American culture at that time, and world culture. Dave Chappelle took over comedy at that time. So he basically got a pass for this Netflix show. Even though this Netflix special, in my opinion, pushed way more boundaries on abortion than anybody's ever done in the last 10 to 15 years. Nobody's ever talked about abortion the way Dave Chappelle did. If you did not watch that Netflix special, you need to go watch it. All right. So yeah, these two comedians say he shouldn't have been fired over this. The Federalist, a conservative online publication, praised Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang for refusing to join cancel culture when he offered to have a conversation with the comedian. So a politician ended up talking to him. The concept has been around for a while, but this particular term has struck hard in recent months. In a Netflix comedy special, which we've been talking about, released a few weeks ago, Dave Chappelle decried celebrity hunting season. Is what it is. It's celebrity hunting season, prompting a round of content about cancel culture. Republican leaders used the phrase while chastising actress Deborah Messing for publicly shaming support of President Trump. But what is cancel culture, which is simultaneously decreed as everything that's wrong with humanity? Hashtag, parentheses, or liberals, or Generation Z. Now, I'm 34 years old. I'm not in Generation Z. I guess you could say I'm Generation Y. So this is everybody that's 25 and under. These are the people in Generation Z that are mostly in the mobs of this cancel culture phenomenon. And with everything, cancel culture, everything wrong with humanity and condemned as a made-up term that helps people escape accountability for past wrongdoing. Is there anything useful we can learn from the mess about the nature of comedy and the internet? Let's find out. Step 1, context. You always have to look at the context of what that person is doing before you can try to cancel them. Okay? Canceling someone refers to shaming a public figure for alleged wrongdoing and advocating for them to lose access to their platform. Basically trying to blackball them. It is a great group effort and it usually plays out these days on social media. Although similar boycott campaigns predate Twitter hashtags. So obviously, yeah, if somebody did something wrong or a picture came out, I mean, like basically, I don't know, let's say what happened to Bill Clinton. He got caught doing what he did and they came after him. That impeachment was, they had to go after him for the impeachment. They were trying to cancel him for that. No matter what he did politically, he got caught, with Monica Lewinsky, and boom. Cancel culture can refer to wildly different things, depending on whom you ask. Some people denounce it, pointing to instances of mob behavior and online infighting, or to situations where a career is jeopardized because of a bad tweet someone made as a teen. So a celebrity, he's a celebrity for a while, he's doing his thing, boom, 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 and then out of nowhere, somebody drops some freaking picture of him from high school when he was 17 years old doing something inappropriate. Like what happened to Justin Trudeau recently. Just yesterday, Justin Trudeau was hit when a picture of him in high school, I believe it is, or first year in college, was at a Halloween party dressed up as Aladdin wearing full brownface. I can't call it blackface because Aladdin's not black. Aladdin was a Middle Eastern character based on Persian and Arabian stories from the Arabian Nights. So he dressed up as brownface and that picture dropped. And I'm wondering, he's been prime minister for a while now. Why didn't this picture drop when he first got elected 3-4 years ago? Why is this picture coming out now? It's coming out now because he's running for re-election. Alright? I guess the people that had the picture back when he ran the first time didn't think he'd get elected. And then he got elected, so they said, we'll hold on to this treasure. My precious. We'll hold on to this damning picture of him wearing brownface if he tries to run again. And boom, he's running for re-election in 2020, and they dropped this picture. And his political career looks in shambles right now because of it. And I'm not condoning blackface, brownface, none of that. That's all racist shit. But I am saying that people are allowed to make mistakes when they don't know any better. When people haven't been adults for a certain amount of time, I think you are allowed to make mistakes. I don't condone anything that he did. I don't think what he did was right. But when you're in high school, we've all gone through it. We're trying to impress people. There's social pressure, social peers, peer pressure, all that crap that comes with that territory when you're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old and then going on to college. He wasn't an adult long enough, in my opinion, to know right from wrong. He was ignorant. Canadians also don't have a huge establishment with the civil rights and slavery like in America. So I feel like Canadians are a little bit different than Americans when it comes to social norms and things of that nature. Did he know what he was doing was wrong back in high school? I don't know. I don't know what's in his heart, but what I do realize is when killing somebody's political career has been around for a while now. Anytime any scandal breaks loose, Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky, if you want to look back recently, JFK, Marilyn Monroe, politicians have always, had scandals and people always bring it up against them. But cancel culture has heightenedly put this, more into the surface. Okay. So, instances of mob behavior and online fighting, or to situations where a career is jeopardized because of a bad tweet someone made as a teen. But it also can be used to describe how a traditionally underrepresented and oppressed group harness the internet and social media to hold powerful people accountable when an institution won't. That's been the case with the Me Too movement, which we all know is despicably, guys like Harvey Weinstein preying on women in Hollywood and making them do sexual acts in return for favors of getting scripts and getting movie roles if they do things with these producers, which is despicable and has been known about Hollywood for a long time now. But now people are saying that the Me Too movement is going a little overboard. Men at this point can't even talk to a woman without possibly her thinking it's harassment. You know what I mean? I understand wolf whistling, wolf calling, hey girl, how you doing? Hey, what's up, baby girl? Hey. Yeah, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that to women in public. But now we're getting to a point where men don't even want to go up to women in bars now because of this Me Too movement, which I think has gone completely overboard. Yes, catch the criminal guys that were forcing these women to do things they didn't want to do, and giving them rewards for it. It's just wrong. That stuff should be completely brought to the surface in Hollywood, and I'm glad that it has. Okay. The case with the Me Too movement, the wave of many credible accusations of sexual misconduct against powerful figures in various industries following the New York Times report on Harvey Weinstein. Step 2, the news. Gillis, relatively unknown to the national audience, got a huge career break last week when the news of his SNL hire was released. This is the comedian we're talking about that just got fired because of that podcast. The announcement also included fellow comedians Chloe Fineman and the show's first East Asian cast member Bowen Yang, a milestone that was widely celebrated at SNL. Then freelance comedy journalist Seth Simmons tweeted a 2018 podcast clip of Gillis using a racial slur against Chinese people and making racist references to Chinatown. Sometimes people who suddenly get a big job or become famous quickly try to get ahead of this public vetting because as soon as you become famous, everything you've done on Twitter is going to get looked at. Everything you've done in the past is going to get looked at, podcasts, everything to cancel you. So sometimes celebrities will try to get ahead of that and try to wipe everything clean off the internet because you'll get blackballed if they find anything in your past, even anything minute. Shit, they even try to go back to people's high schools, let alone, it could be something you did in elementary school, for goodness sakes. Trevor Noah had to answer for his old tweets. Even Trevor Noah. This is ridiculous. Trevor Noah had to answer for his old tweets when he got the job at The Daily Show. And Melissa Villaseñor caught similar criticism about tweets posted years before she was hired at SNL in 2016. Gillis's comments were from last September, and that's why I think he got fired, because this wasn't like something from like 5 years ago, like they found with Trevor Noah's tweets or this lady's tweets. But since it was a year ago, that means he still thinks that way. So, SNL just said, hey, we're going to fire you, man. Sorry. We just hired an East Indian Asian guy as the first East Indian on SNL. We can't have a comedian who, said this only 1 year ago, about about Asians. That's what I think happened. So Gillis's comments were from last September. Someone had already deleted past episodes of the Matt and Shane Secret podcast from its YouTube page, but there was still an active subreddit with a lot of the content. So somebody dug deep. This is how crazy cancel culture is. If they find out that the podcast was deleted off iTunes, they're going to go and hope that stuff is on Reddit or 4chan. Go to the Wayback Machine and try to pull it up. You can't wipe everything from the internet. It's damn near impossible. So other writers dug around to see if those first clips that went viral were isolated or part of a pattern, and unearthed other racist as well as homophobic and sexist language. So maybe this guy had a tendency of doing too much racist content. Maybe he did deserve to get fired. I don't know. But the rate of speed where someone becomes a celebrity and gets hired to the point of getting fired instantly is just so rapid now. This is an isolated incident. Number 3, the debate. Stand-up comedy, just like other art forms, has traditionally enjoyed an unspoken pact with the audience that they can go far. We're trying to make you laugh, the audience. So if we're going to make you laugh, you got to give us carte blanche. You can't hate on us for pushing the envelope with comedy. And really, that's been an unspoken pact between the comic and the audience for years now. We love comedy. Eddie Murphy, Raw, Martin Lawrence, Dave Chappelle, obviously. There's so many great comics that had they been stifled by cancel culture, we wouldn't have got some of the greatest comedic albums out there ever. Flip Wilson. Some of the greatest comedians out there. George Carlin. And the king of them all, Richard Pryor. There's so many envelopes and doors that Richard Pryor kicked down in the 1970s and 80s. Comics have always been allowed to be comics. And when you stifle comics from, pushing the boundaries by doing racist content, by doing feminist content, abortion content, content that really is taboo, you're not allowing freedom of speech at that point, in my opinion. Freedom of speech then is only for a certain type of people and not for others. Comedians are artists. It's an art form to be a stand-up comic, and they should be allowed to push the boundaries to make people laugh, in my opinion. Stand-up comedy, just like other art forms, has traditionally enjoyed an unspoken pact with the audience. Comedians can say pretty much whatever they want, and people in the crowd can feel however they want about the jokes. That's the unspoken pact we give comics. In live comedy, the power dynamics tend to favor a comedian who has the stage, spotlight, and microphone. If a couple of people in the audience are deeply offended, the comic may never know about it. But the internet changed this relationship. The audience can now do more than heckle a live performance. They can talk back at length and get a lot of people to listen. The shift has prompted a huge debate among comedians and anybody with opinions about comedy. And Gillis's firing brought back many of those questions. Where are the lines of decency? Is there room for forgiveness for old or hurtful bits and content? Gillis didn't say that stuff in a stand-up set, but on a podcast, a more controversial format. So are these expressions of opinion or jokes? Given the content, does the distinction even matter? Alright guys, that's part 1 of the Bareback Barbarians podcast, episode 7, Cancel Culture Must Be Stopped. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.